All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, the right hand man, Lou. Lou, it's that time of year. We usually talk about it at the tail end of the regular season that it's Christmas, and I'm sure it feels like Christmas Eve for your squad. Me, not so much, considering we're not even relevant till the end of night 2 of the NFL draft this year.
It's more Kwanzaa for you.
Exactly right. Um, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag here in the sense of like Lou and I had been planning that I was finally gonna like spend time at his house, watch the draft. We were gonna do all these things. Lo and behold, no secret on this show that my wife is uber pregnant at this moment in time. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't happen from now till this date, we are scheduled to go in for delivery on the 25th, which means I will probably still be in the hospital on the first round of the draft. So that plan has been squandered. And even
Someone's whipped. Someone's whipped.
even if I was home, you know, my wife is lenient, especially when it comes to the stuff that we do here. But even like the first 24 hours of being home with a newborn, even I know that's pushing it. So we'll see how that goes.
Just pull like, hey, I'm going to get some milk and cigarettes and then just return 5 hours later.
Yeah. What happened? I got lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. The car stalled in the parking lot and I could walk home from anywhere where we live. All right. This evening, we're going to push into obviously the theme's going to be around the draft. We're going to do a mock draft next week heading into the draft, a first round mock. But tonight we're going to talk about some things that come up related to the draft. No spoiler alert here. We'll cover them in just a second. We appreciate you tuning in and sticking with us. All right. Lou.
Well, Weston,
I know we got a couple.
Before you get started, I do want to acknowledge the rumors out there. Weston and I are not going out on a pot. We're not, the podcast is not separating. All right. We're just basically what we're doing. We're having like an open podcast marriage. He's doing his thing with the Niners. I'm doing my thing with the Chargers. And then we're doing everything NFL on the We're Talking Football podcast. You know how these rumors start? Like, oh, what's Weston doing by his show by himself?
Yeah.
Well, where's Lou?
What are they fighting about behind the scenes?
We are very progressive. We're in an open marriage.
Yeah, this is not
we're swinging.
This is not a band breaking up where everybody wants to go do their solo act. But Lou, I'm glad you raised the point because like let's openly talk about that, right? Like I always look at We're Talking Football podcast as like the parent company in an organization. The Lightning Lounge, Island 49, those concepts.
I don't even think that might have been a teaser right there.
You didn't reference that at all in your first show, did you?
No, it's all good.
Oh man. All right, rewind, strike that. We're gonna hop out and we're gonna come back in and start the but I would even open this up to any, podcasts out there that are just getting started, around their teams, etc. Like we want to partner up. Like the We're Talking Football podcast YouTube page could be a landing destination for your podcast as well. While I'm sure you have your own, YouTube page, etc. Just another outlet for you. Look at We're Talking Football as like the central figure. And then we just branch from there. Like no secret. Like look how we dress every week. I'm a diehard Niners fan. You're a diehard Chargers fan. We're itching to talk about our team as much as we possibly can. So We're Talking Football is not going anywhere. So for the millions and millions of fans out there, like, guys.
Yeah, calm down. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to pull the Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Relax.
Everybody just relax. Now that I say that, let's get excited because it is draft time. And what we want to get into this evening is more about these topics related to the draft, right? We're not here to talk prospect. We're not, that's going to come in just a moment, but more about like there are yearly discussions around a certain subject matter, especially as the game of football has changed and the value of positions has changed. Every year, it feels like there's a team that has to come away winning the equation in some capacity, at least as you head into OTAs and things of that nature. So these are the type of topics that we're going to discuss this evening. Lou, we have them outlined. Lou has trusted me to kind of throw these out here in some semblance of an order. So I want to get the blood flowing early. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first one that I want to address for us is the every year topic of, should a running back be drafted in the first round? There's one that feels very top of mind and very relevant for this discussion in Bijan Robinson out of Texas for the 2023 draft. But Lou, I've been doing a lot of talking to kick us off, so I'm going to toss it to you, and I want you to give me your opinion on if running backs, because we've seen plenty of them in our time, should continue to be drafted in the first round of a draft.
I am 100% team no running backs in the first round of the draft for numerous reasons. Positional value, yeah, I personally believe that's a thing. I think you draft your the top positions like quarterback, edge rushers, wide receivers, corners, offensive line. Like, you do not draft linebackers because they've been awful, coming out in the first round draft. And you do not draft running backs in the first round. You keep those things to the later rounds. I don't care what you say. So positional value I'm a firm believer of it. Secondly, I personally think we've said it on the show before, Weston, like, what travels well in January, right? A good rushing game and also like stout defense, right? I'm not saying, by not drafting a running back in the first round is not totally ignoring a rushing attack. You just need an efficient rushing attack. In order to do that, you don't need an elite rushing attack, so you don't need that elite running back. You can get running backs later in the draft that have much more value. And in addition, we're talking about positional value. How about contractual value? As soon as you draft a running back in the first round of the draft, guess what? He's already paid like a top 10 running back in the NFL. Where's the value from a financial standpoint versus if you're drafting an edge rusher in the first round of the draft, he's probably most likely a top 35 paid edge rusher. So if they bust out, it doesn't hurt as much, right? Because of that value. But now if he balls out, it lets you provide you to do so much more, with your team. So, that's my personal opinion. I just feel like that that running backs, they seldom work out. They're high injury risk. And I'm sorry. We've seen this before, time and time again. Over the last years, Clyde's Edwards-Helaire, Rashad Penny, all these running backs. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be like add an extra element to this offense, and that's why I have to get him in the first round. I'm sorry, I'll go happy to go the last 10 running backs selected in the first round. And I'll tell you some major warts that pretty much that they had.
Yeah. So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit.
You're such like an old school, like boomer type of guy. But go ahead.
No, just this is going to be the most political response. And me, I am the politician here on the We're Talking Football podcast.
Yeah, me too, man.
So I will agree with you in the sense of like, gone are the days where you're drafting a running back like where you drafted Saquon Barkley or Leonard Fournette or Zeke Elliott, right? Like in that top 10. I mean, remember that one draft where Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown went like 3-4 or whatever it was? Like that, I don't see any value in whatsoever. When there is exceptional talent, and I do find Bijan Robinson to be an exceptional talent, I don't have as many concerns in the bottom half of the first round, right?
So what do you mean by that? Like, give me a number range.
20 or later, 20 to 32, right? Okay. Like if you're in the 20 to 32 range, I'm comfortable with it. A point that you called out is often overlooked, right? Like when you look at things in the grand scheme of things in a rookie wage scale, a first round running back on that rookie wage scale is already like a top tiered paid running back, right? Like in terms of how the position is valued. But I look at it like you have what is like the one thing you never want to do is you don't want to pay a running back in free agency, right? Like in what I've seen in my experience is once they're beyond their first initial contract is when the wear on the tires starts to show itself, right?
Yeah,
The warts start to show themselves.
That second contract becomes a bitch. Look at every time what happens. Every time what happens when that first round running back has to negotiate a contract. It's a straight nightmare because the team doesn't know how to basically value, how can we sign this good player, but if we throw a boatload of money to them, it's going to totally hamper us from other
100%.
Important positions.
100%. And so I totally agree with that. But I think of it like if you're in the 20 to 32 range, that number goes down, right? We're not talking about top 10 money. We're not talking about top 15 money in the draft, but you have contract control. So if you are confident in this player and you're thinking about the window of production where you can maximize the production, it's on that rookie contract. It's funny because I knew we were going to talk about this today, and I found myself. I was actually out on the golf course, and I found myself like while I was waiting to take my shot, I looked up Zeke Elliott real quick, right? And Zeke was drafted in the first round in 2016. He was a Pro Bowler in 16. He was a Pro Bowler in 18, and he was a Pro Bowler in 19. And he was a good player in 17, right? Just didn't make the play. So there's the 4 years that I'm really looking to get out of this individual. And I could argue, and Zeke was an exceptional talent, right? Coming out of college, viewed as such, that in those 4 years, maybe even 5 years before you get into the longer term contract or the extension or whatever it might be, 5th-year option, like, is that player enough to complement what I need to put me over, right? When you're drafting, in my opinion, if you're drafting in the top 20 of the NFL draft, like chances are the running back is not the only position that you need. You know what I'm saying? But like there is a chance if you're in the back half of the round, that could be the player that may put you over the top offensively, a la what the Chiefs probably thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be. The bottom half of the first round, like, hey, look at all these weapons we have. We haven't ran the ball well, etc. So that being said, I am not, listen, top 20, I'm out. Just for what I got to pay them, what it means, and where, if I'm drafting the top 20, like where my team really actually sits is usually I didn't make the playoffs, right? So if I didn't make the playoffs, unless I was injury riddled, there's usually a larger reason to it. And it's not just the running game. It's not just the running back position, right? It could be the game. It could be the offensive line. It could be that. And there's going to be better value there for you. But in this draft, if it's Bijan Robinson goes 22 to 31, somewhere in that area, I have no problem with it whatsoever. No problem. Because you got cap control of the most valued player at that position in this draft, young, right? And this is where you're going to, and if it's me, and if I pull the trigger on that guy late in the first round, I am wearing him out like you couldn't imagine. Homeboy's getting 300 totes a year until that contract's done. And be like, hey, go test the free market, man. Yeah. I'm going to do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, listen, I understand it. Like I said, it all comes with that second contract. That's the issue right there. Here's another fun fact. The reason why I've actually prepared for this topic because I will be having this conversation probably next week with someone else in reference to this topic.
Is this a Lightning Lounge teaser?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, so that being said, I did some research. Can you name by position who has the shortest NFL career, like number of years in the NFL?
Well, I'm just going to start with running back.
No, believe it or not, it is quarterback. And you have to, not from injuries, though. It's more from play.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. But yeah, running back is actually number 3. Defensive back, like safeties, are number 2. But running back is number 3. But they are, the fact that they only average 41.13 games in their NFL careers between injuries and non-effectiveness, that is a high risk. Me personally, if I'm picking in the back end of the NFL draft, I'm picking on positions that are going to have possibly a longer career, which are your offensive linemen, believe it or not, and your edge rushers, right? And not only that, you see with edge rushers, after the first round, there's usually a fall off from a production standpoint in the later rounds. It's harder to find good edge rushers. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's a sharp decline in finding efficient edge rushers in the later rounds. The majority of the top edge rushers, if you look at them, I'm not saying all of them. I know there's the Max Crosbys. I get it. But if you look at the top edge rushers, a lot of them come from the first round. And then there's a straight fall off. So I would want to take a gamble on, trying to hit on, a more impactful position such as the edge rusher. Because we talk about all the time, we're the most important positions on the field, right?
Yeah.
Quarterback. Who would you say is next? Edge or offensive tackle, right?
Left tackle, yeah.
Yeah. So why not try to take more stabs at the more premium positions?
So let me pose a question to you.
Okay.
If I'm looking at this year's draft order, I'll start with pick 27.
Okay.
Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
28's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm skipping 29. New Orleans Saints, I don't think they factor into the equation. Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs, right? So if you look at those four teams, right? Those four teams are playoff teams, obviously, made it deep into the playoffs. And I could argue that with Joe Mixon's availability up in the air, as this has now gone back to court or whatever, if Bijan Robinson is sitting there, and you know what these offenses can consist of, right? We know Buffalo airs it out. We know they don't run the ball well. Their best running back is their quarterback. Cincinnati, they were heavily dependent upon Joe Mixon, and God, can they air the ball out? And if Joe's not available, then what? Philadelphia just lost Miles Sanders, right? So, and then the Kansas City Chiefs, like, we have no idea what their running game really is. It's like plug and play for them. And we know Pacheco played well last year, right?
What round was he in, by the way, Pacheco?
6th round, 7th round, right?
Okay,
like 7th round. But was it lightning in a bottle, or is it, longevity? And by running back position, I mean longevity, like 3 years, 4 years. Are you getting that production out of them? I don't know. Would you have a gripe or a legitimate beef if any of those four teams took a running back in the first round? And by running back, I don't mean just a running back, right? Like, it could be the only running back that has a first round grade on him.
Okay, so all right, hit me with the teams again.
Buffalo Bills.
As right there, right? Buffalo Bills, I feel like they have more needs than just a running back. Frankly, they have to shore up the offensive line. They need help in the secondary. And I'm sorry, if I'm seeing an edge rusher like a Miles Murphy there, why not? You have an older Von Miller, right? He got hurt pretty significantly last year, right? He ain't getting younger. And look what happened when Miller went out. That defense was not as sharp as it was with Miller. So I'm gonna, I would nix that with the Buffalo Bills offensive line, or they need more trenches, or guess what? They need something to take away from Diggs, because it's literally just the Stephon Diggs show, and that's it pretty much out there. And you could say you can utilize Bijan Robinson like that. I get it, but I'm sorry. I also don't think their offensive scheme. That's not how they want to, run their offensive scheme. So for me, Buffalo Bills is out. Next one,
Cincy.
They need interior offensive line help. You saw what happened last year. When they played against the Chiefs, the Chiefs beat them up in the interior. They were, they're banged up, and also Cincy has to start preparing for what's coming down the pipeline with Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, right? So what that means is they have to try to find cheaper players at higher premium positions. So because they might have to make some difficult decisions, maybe a cut a Hendrickson, because they can't afford to sign Higgins, Chase, and Burrow, right? So they might have to build up along that defensive line. Or guess what? They just lost Hayden Hurst. They might want to, bring in something perhaps that will soften the blow when Tyler Boyd leaves, and maybe they get a Dalton Kincaid where they are. So
the Chargers are going to take him, so he won't be there.
Oh, you are a motherfucker. Yeah, how's your boy Trey doing? Your boy Trey.
I mean, don't bring his hairline into this.
Oh
Don't
my
drag
God.
nobody's hairline into this. Nah, dude, that was low hanging fruit for me. Obviously, as a
Dude,
follower of your social media.
dude, fuck you, man.
Hey, they just cleared him. They just cleared his back, bro.
Yeah, doctor
His
says I
back
need to back it
injuries
out of
go
me.
away. Yeah,
Doctor
because
says I
back
need to,
injuries go away.
yeah, back it out of me.
So I see what you're saying.
But hear me out though. The only way I can justify something like that, or from a team like the Eagles, a team like the Lions, a team like the Seahawks. I know the Seahawks just have Kenneth Walker, so that doesn't really pertain. But what am I saying here? Teams that have multiple draft picks,
Yeah.
that you get a premium position player with one of your picks, and then you get that blue chip player. So I'm fine with something like that. But I'm telling you, especially in this draft where it's loaded at edge rusher, you're going to see a lot of value at edge rusher and wide receiver towards the back end, even cornerback too. Shit.
Yep. Yeah. Listen, I get what you're saying, right? Like need, but we know how these people they don't always draft by need. It's how does my board, right? Like fall. What I'm saying, what I guess the way that I posed my question and you intuitively counter argued it, but the reality is like if one of those teams was to take a running back, and again, since he's only lumped into this, if Mixon's like, out of the mix,
They can get Eckler if they want.
Well, yeah, but you wouldn't sneeze at it. You know what I mean? You'd be like, I get it. Like a strength, you're making a strength, right? You just continue to compile, and you took, the top running back. That's why I say the back half of the first round justifiable to me. The days of drafting a running back, and I know Saquon's a special athlete and he's gifted, but running backs don't impact the game the same way that other players do. Like you can't expend the number 2 overall pick on a running back anymore.
Let me ask you a question. Would you consider Saquon a hit?
I wouldn't consider him a miss.
Dude, he missed 2 years in his rookie contract.
I know. But he's been highly productive when out, right?
His first year.
Dude, he caught 90 balls his first year as a rookie, right? Okay. Like as a running back, and ran for over a G note. Listen, I would say
last year was more of a volume play if you ask me.
Yeah, it wasn't the quality wasn't the same for sure. Yeah, like he did miss time, but I don't think and I think looking at the Giants scenario right now, like, hey, QB questions, things of that nature, like maybe they could have, not that was a QB strong class either, that they could have done something differently. But I don't fault, like when, dude, Saquon was special. Like he was a very, very special, gifted athlete, that squatted more than offensive linemen do. And you know what I mean? Like it was just hard. They were just in a really bad spot where it's like, you don't have the number 1 pick. This is what you got. And honestly, just based on pure skill and football acumen, he was the best player in the draft. Like he was the best individual player. But this goes back to why we're having this conversation in the first place. It's just a devalued position, right? So like, again, you could have the best running back in the world in 2023 that doesn't get your team any closer to winning a Super Bowl, right?
I didn't want to do this, but no one cares about the rushing attack anymore. I know it's important. You want to be efficient.
Nobody cares about hockey, Boomer.
So hear me out, and then we can switch topics.
Yeah.
Defenses are letting you run the ball because they rather. What's a great yards per carry from a running back? 5.5.
That's great. I would say 5 is
Really
listen,
good. I'm trying to over exaggerate here. Yeah. So a great yards per carry is 5.5. A team will give you 5.5 fucking yards. They don't want you to look. Man, what's a yards per completion now?
7.
What's that? No,
8.
That's probably like the better ones. Probably so. Passing the ball has become more explosive and more efficient. So that's my last two. That's my last two. I'm sticking to it.
We say all this, and Bijan Robinson's still going in the first round.
Yeah, no, he will. Yeah.
No question about it, right? Okay.
Well, I still don't know where though.
I don't either. That's why I kind of threw those few names out there because I do see it sliding.
It starts with Atlanta. I feel like it starts with Atlanta.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, because there's definitely a need,
then goes to the Eagles. But I feel like Howie's too
I
smart.
don't know, man. I don't know if it starts with Atlanta at 8, and I think Philly
Then the Commanders.
can continue to make a strength and get better on defense if they wanted to.
Commanders.
I wouldn't be shocked when you say Commanders, just because if this sale goes through, like you're looking for a face, you know what I mean?
You
And
want to
like
take pressure
every
off your
team
rookie.
loves a running
You want
back.
to take pressure off your rookie.
Yeah.
And I know they have a stable of running backs out there, but none of them are like Bijan. And also, I was listening to some podcasts where it's like, I think the guy out there does like the general manager. He does value the running back position, highly. And then you got the Lions. Dan Campbell usually he likes dogs. He loves Sewell.
Yeah.
Like Hutchison. Like he likes those type of. So I just think he likes football players, so he could fall in line with the second pick.
I think for me, it starts with Detroit at 18. That's what.
No, I think it starts way earlier than that.
No, I don't think it does. Maybe even Tennessee at 11, because you don't know what's left with Derrick Henry.
Okay.
And that's the identity they have built under Vrabel, is running the football, right?
Okay.
So we'll see. All right. Let's move to the next topic here. I'm going to stick with position. Quarterbacks. Round 1. Over, under, how many go in round 1?
I think the over/under has to be 4.5, right?
We'll set it at 4.5. Yeah.
Because I think you're assuming Bryce Young, you're assuming C.J. Stroud,
Yep.
The kid from Florida, and then the kid from Kentucky.
Yep.
Now you're throwing in the wild card of Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. So I am going under 4.5. I know Hendon Hooker's been, a lot of people's like, oh, his stock's been rising. If he was healthy, he probably been like the third, maybe the third or fourth, ranked quarterback out. Age, he is like 24, right? 24, 25. That is
He'll be 25 at the start of the season. I'm
definitely
pretty
a
sure.
factor. And he might not be starting right away physically.
No, he tore his ACL in like November and December.
Yeah, there's mixed reports that he'll be playing or would be able to play. So now you're age 25. You might not be able
He's 25 now.
Okay, so you're 25 now, and you might get behind the 8 ball when it comes to learning because of you physically might not be able to. I just don't see it happen. I feel like every year they always try to sneak in a quarterback. One time was Tom Savage. Another one was what's this guy? There's some guy from Cal.
Savage.
Another guy from
Ben Savage's cousin.
I think he was from Pitt, Tom Savage. And then there was another guy from Cal. I can't. He was on the Giants. Davis Webb. They were trying to make that a thing too. And I know, Hendon Hooker, he's far superior than them. And you start looking at the back end of the draft, right? And you're thinking, all right, the Vikings might be getting a little frisky. Excuse me, looking for a quarterback because they only have one more year of Kirk Cousins. So do they pull the trigger? I don't know. I just feel like it would be a tall order to have Hendon Hooker in the first round. I don't think he goes.
I'm going over, and I think Hendon gets into the first round, and I think.
All right, where does he go then? I want to ask you that, or should we save that?
He's not going to anybody that's on the board right now based on when they draft. Somebody's going to trade in to the back half of the first round, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that be like Kansas City sliding out a spot for the last piece, Philadelphia maybe coupling. Like I know they have 2 first-round picks, but like, hey, if they can pick up 2 second-round picks and a pick next year for that slide. But I think that happens. Why do I think that happens? Because we see this all the time in the NFL draft. It's this thing called desperation and FOMO of missing out on the position, not a player, the position. It happens all the time. And when we all talk about cost control, right? Like having a quarterback on a 5-year deal, especially when he's picked at the latter half of the first round, that's really affordable and really attractive. And I think a team that's willing to gamble on Hooker wants the 5th-year option given the injury he's coming off of. So it's not a I used the first year, I used a first round pick on him and he has to play this year. All these other guys, it is my belief, whether it's Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, like they're all playing right away based on who's going to take them, right? Whoever takes Hookers is going to intelligently, in my opinion, jump into the first round, pull a Hooker, say year one can even be a redshirt year if it needs to be, let him recover from that ACL. And I know he's another year longer, but he's mature. He is gifted. He's again, I'm a Vols fan, so I've watched a lot of Hooker games, and that deep ball that he throws is pretty, man, and it's special and it's exceptional. He's mobile, right? He's not a scrambler. He's mobile. Somebody's going to do it for the cost control factor and say, I want that 5th year out of him, right? And it's going to be somebody who's sitting on the fence a little bit.
Can I make some predictions here?
Yeah.
All right, let's say Hendon Hooker. I don't think he will go in the first round, but let's say he does, right?
Yep.
I'm looking at the second round of the draft right now, and there's 2 teams that come to mind. I'm going to start with the one I don't believe so much. First team, Indianapolis Colts, right?
Yep.
I feel like that they might, depending on how the first couple of picks go.
If one of their guys is not there at 4,
they
right,
might
and
take
they don't
BPA.
love Levis, they're not going to take him.
Yeah, right. So maybe they come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I think that's not as likely as my next one would be, I feel like the Colts can't be trading up when they have so many needs on that team, first and foremost. And secondly, Colts have no one under center. So they're going to need an immediate starter, I feel like, right? So that one's a little far-fetched, but possible, yes. Probable, no. But here's the one I really think we're looking into here. The Houston Texans. Let me tell you why, right? Let's say Bryce Young goes 1, right? And let's say the Texans were only Bryce Young fans, and they were not CJ Stroud's fan. They love Will Anderson, right? So they pick him too. Yep. And then at 12,
DeMeco's a defensive guy. He's going to have no problem pulling the trigger on a guy like that.
And then at 12, they take the next BPA, whether it could be a Bijan, whether it could be a wide receiver, whether it could be offensive lineman or cornerback or whatever. They take BPA at 12, right? Because don't forget, D'Amico Ryans has a long leash to build this right. And guess what? And if it doesn't work out this year, they're sitting pretty next year, where maybe they can get one of the 2 big quarterbacks that are coming out, either at North Carolina or USC. So it gives him another shot to do so. Maybe he's looking at it like that. So the Houston Texans are sleepers for Hendon Hooker. You heard it here first.
Wow. Boom, boom, boom. I love it. I'll throw another team in there that don't be surprised. Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who could slide up, right? Like, I know they brought in Jim, but is Jimmy, like, listen,
Jimmy G is the perfect
Raider quarterback. I make no mistake about that. He was meant to be in Vegas, right? Like Bunny Ranch, the whole 9. Like
that can't be around still, right? No, that guy
Bunny Ranch is still around. I'm pretty confident, or something similar to it. But again, like, what team? It doesn't even matter who the GM is, who the head coach is. Like, what owner gets more enamored with upside skill set and athletic ability than the Raiders?
Yeah,
right. We've seen it with the picks they've made year in and year out. So they're another team that I feel like, and it probably won't take a ton to go from 38 to 28 or later, right? Yeah. It'll probably require some, they'll probably backload it and it'll be some picks next year. And those teams that are drafting that late, like, their roster set, like they'll fill the pieces. Shouldn't be an issue, but I love the Texans call out, because I do think the Texans are in an envious spot in the sense of, like, they could fall in love with a guy, and if they don't get that guy, they can be like, yo, the lines are open. Right? Like, who's desperate enough to come all the way? I mean, bro, before you know it, they could be picking 3 times in the freaking first round if they really wanted to, based on what people might do. Draft day causes major FOMO and
Yeah,
desperation.
yeah.
It's
So
wild. But so you say under 4.5, I say over 4.5.
yeah.
All right. Documented. Boom. Let's go. All right. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find. Catch me a catch. Lou, be the
Bro.
matchmaker for me. Dude, I just hit you with some lyrics that you love, right?
Sure.
I'm on I'm on my fucking game tonight, bro. Let's matchmaker it here. I'm gonna change the phrasing of this a little bit. Tell me a quarterback that is obviously going in the top 10 and tell me the best spot for them to go. Team. What team? So give me the player and tell me what team is the match made in heaven.
Anthony Richardson to the Indianapolis Colts. I would love to see that. Why? Because what that backfield with Jonathan Taylor and him would be running those RPOs that their new coach, what's his name?
Steichen, Shane Steichen.
Shane Steichen, like those RPO, decent offensive line. I know it's not as good as it once was, but still, it's not porous, right? So I would love to see, Shane Steichen really being able to have a quarterback with these tools. He did a fantastic job with Hurts. He's used to these mobile quarterbacks that have nice arms and what have you. And I think that would be a match make in heaven if somehow Anthony Richardson can go out there in Indianapolis and what he can bring. I just think scheme wise, excitement wise, and just he would just have the coach that would really be able to grow his tool set.
It's hard to dispute that. For me, since I can't say the same thing for purposes of having an entertaining show, I'm going to go with Bryce Young to the Houston Texans at number 2.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I
don't. No, I don't. Because Houston's in the AFC, so I'm tired of having good quarterbacks in the AFC. Put them in the NFC, bro.
So I just have no faith in Carolina as an organization, to be honest with you. So like I feel for whoever's going number 1 overall. You mentioned this just a second ago about how DeMeco Ryans is going to have a long leash, right? And I don't care if you're a defensive-minded coach or an offensive-minded coach or GM, whatever it might be, and we can talk about this in a second, the rumor mill that's spinning around the Texans GM. But it's what destination can the player go through more growing pains without getting yanked right away, right? Mm-hmm. Without a knee-jerk reaction based on year 1 play or even year 2 play. And I think it's going to take Bryce Young a little time to get acclimated. Like it's taken most Alabama quarterbacks a little bit of time to get acclimated. Not a lot, just a little bit, right? And a little pressure off, and where he can go to a destination where he can just put in one ear and out the other, his size and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you played at Alabama where your entire team is a bunch of superstars. Like, how good are you? Do you carry the team? Can put all that in the rearview mirror and he can just go learn this game. And he's going to learn it through experience. He's going to play right away. Whoever they take is going to play right away, should play right away. You're not seeing enough from Davis Mills to say that he shouldn't be taken out of the lineup for whoever you invest this collateral in. I just feel like in the dome as well, in that AFC South, it just feels like that would be a home run for Bryce Young, the person, and the player to land in Houston versus any of these other destinations.
Okay. I have another one real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about Will Levis?
Whatever.
Two. Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. And hear me out. Well, I know I keep on bringing up the Vikings. I do think they're starved for a quarterback.
You think he's going to slide?
No, well, I think the Vikings can straight up.
From 23, huh?
Well, I don't think he's going to be. I think he's
going to the top 10 for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think they can get up there. Maybe a future first round pick. So hear me out. He would have a star wide receiver in Justin Jefferson, a good tight end already in what's the guy that they got from the Lions? I'm having a brain fart here.
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. They have Dalvin Cook. They might part from him, but that's whatever. Decent offensive line, and he would go to an offensive-minded coach that has success.
And doesn't have to play right away.
Yeah, and he just came out, O'Donnell, and saying that, hey, I'm looking for, what's important for me is the ball coming out of a quarterback's hand. He needs to have a gun for an arm. Kind of sounds like Will Levis to me. So just
yeah. I'm just gonna come out and say this, and listen, you know me, I'm the first one to eat my words and call it out. Like to me, there's just nothing about his game that truly excites me, that gets me like enamored with that individual. And by Will Levis. And for me, it's more about what you hear about just the personality and the demeanor and the way these interviews and going. So becomes a little bit less about the skill set. Like, listen, this is the NFL. They're all freaking talented. Drafted in the first round, undrafted, make a practice squad. Like, these are talented people. But the reality is like, I don't know. Like, I just see too much like Josh Rosen in him. You know what I mean? Like, where it's more about
wrong. He is jacked up Zach Wilson.
yeah. I mean, Jesus, physically, yes. You know what I mean? But like
Zach Wilson.
Just the like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like I don't know. I just don't get the feel good, the warm and fuzzies from him. And I feel like somebody's gonna take him in the top 10. And they're putting all their eggs in that basket, and it's not going to yield the fruit, in my opinion. But hey, we'll see what I know about anything in short order. So real quick, because I hinted at this before, did you hear these rumors around?
I did.
The GM spot that Caserio might go back to New England after draft. I don't understand why people do this. And it's happened before. It's not like,
if you're the owner, why not just kick his ass out now? Yeah,
let the coaches and then the staff go figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, why are you going to let a GM draft for your team that's got no stake in it after the fact?
Unless this was premeditated for a while. Like, hey, just get through this draft. I don't know.
Dude, but to me, losing Adam Peters would be soul crushing, because I do firmly believe that he should be the 49ers GM, that John Lynch is like a talking head, like public figure for them. And listen, I think very highly of John Lynch, and his football acumen and all of that, but I know what I know, and I know who's pulling more of the strings, and that'd be for me, it'd be even more of a problem because it's not happening during traditional like free agency, offseason, etc. So I'm like, okay, what does that do? Like, is there any compensation related to that, or like we're just gonna let him go? Like I don't understand. But it would make sense for him to end up and follow D'Amico. I know they're buddies. All right, Lou. 2 topics left.
Okay.
In your opinion,
let's bust through them. Let's go.
Yeah, in your opinion, who most desperately needs to win this draft?
I'm gonna throw a team that you're going to think I'm fucking crazy here. I think the Buffalo Bills, and the reason being is because they're starting to. We thought like, hey, Buffalo is going to become the New England and run away with this division for years to come, because they got Josh Allen, Stephen Diggs, great coach, dominant defense. They're going to leave everyone behind them. But guess what? Miami hired Mike McDaniel. They have a potent offense. Now they have Vic Fangio. They have a smart defensive coach. Miami's going all in. It's an attractive destination for free agents because of the income tax. So they're a threat. Now you got the Jets because they are desperate, right? They hit on the last draft or 2 drafts. So they've done good and they're just a quote unquote quarterback away. And guess what? They've been rumored to get Aaron Rodgers. If that happens, they become a serious contender too. And then you got New England, albeit they're not the big bad New England Patriots of the years past. The problem with them is they're still a tough out because they play defense, they run the ball, and they got a coach who's extremely intelligent. Not saying, like I said, from a personnel standpoint, they might not be as advanced as the other teams, but they're still going to give you problems every friggin' Sunday. So the Buffalo Bills really need to hit on this draft to stay ahead of these teams.
I like that. That is definitely a curveball. In these scenarios, when I'm asked this question, I tend to look at like who's got the most draft capital and who has the opportunity to truly take the next step if they're to hit on some of these. So for me, it's an in-division rival, and it's the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Listen, I know what they did with Geno, and it's really just a 1-year contract, right? Like, let's dispel all of that based on the extension. It's a 1-year contract with plenty of outs, but they're banking on like, can we get similar production that we did the year before? And the year before led to a playoff berth, right? They were definitely deficient in certain areas. They pick twice in the first round, twice in the second round. So they actually have 4 picks in the first 55 picks, and they have 5 in the first 85 picks.
That's, yeah.
If they can get 5 quality players, let's say 4.
I say 3. Players. I say even 3 because they killed their last draft.
Yeah, they did.
I think they did half of what they did last draft, right?
Bookends are solidified, right? So now you can focus a little bit more. Probably going to focus a little bit more on the defense. There's somebody again in that later section of picks, right? Where do they pick? 20. Talking about before, like, do they go address the running? Well, they got Kenneth Walker, so they wouldn't really.
They could do a quarterback too.
That's someone that doesn't have to play, right? Could they slide back if somebody wants to be aggressive and maybe Hendon Hooker sitting? You know what I'm saying? Like, they have these options, and the truth is, like, all right, dude, they pick 5 overall. That's from Denver on the Russell Wilson trade. This team was a playoff team. Another should not be picking 5 overall. They're benefiting from a trade where their team got better. I just feel like they don't have to win it, but goddamn, they're in a great spot for this to be a really lucrative draft for them towards the next 3-4 years. And I'll call it what it is. Am I right now?
Yeah.
Did I cut out?
A little bit.
All right, because it just like reset my screen. But I'm saying the Seahawks. I mean, dude, there's multiple teams, right? Like, hey, the Texans with their 2 picks. You know, who else has got 2 picks in the first round?
Yeah, but like they're in the beginning stages. Like,
yeah, they're in a rebuild, right? The brand new coach, right? Like, Pete Carroll's still in the twilight of his career here.
Yeah, he's got 1 foot in the
you know what I mean? Like, he ain't far removed. But to me,
that's a good one.
Yeah, they got to do it. This is
funny.
The time.
It's funny how we both said playoff teams, by the way, too.
Yeah, but this is how you remain playoff teams.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to draft well. It's not just done. Like, we've seen what happens to teams that sell their soul to the devil and go all in on free agents and trades and compromise draft capital for a singular push, right, to get to the promised land. You know, why are the Kansas City Chiefs where they are? Why were the Pats where they were for so long? They won the draft. They continue to win the draft, and they're just like, dude, you know what? I'm not sure how closely. Well, you're a Yankees fan, so you follow baseball closely. You follow the AL East, right? Like, bro, what the Tampa Bay Devil Rays are doing right now is what the Patriots did forever. Is they found young talent, groomed that young talent, got a ton of production on them, and shipped them off before they ever even had to pay them. And that's what the Tampa Bay Devil Rays have been built on over the last 3 years with their pitching staff. It's like you or I could go out there and play in Tropicana Field and just put on a Tampa Bay Rays jersey, and my ERA is going to be sub 3, and I might win 14 or 15 games.
When it comes down to that, this is the formula for success, right? You identified your franchise quarterback, and then basically you get cheap labor that is good, and you get that through the draft, so you can keep on paying your franchise quarterback and still support the team to make it a well-rounded team. So all you got to do is get that franchise quarterback and don't strike out on your drafts.
Don't strike out on your drafts. But I think when you're like a team like the Seahawks right now, again, you're coming off a unprecedented playoff appearance when every single person wrote you off after the Russell Wilson trade, right? Like not feasible to get there. You can argue that they get a little bit better when they get Jamal Adams back. You can argue it. Well, I won't argue it, but you can argue it. But to me, the teams that have the ability to win a draft are the ones that can truly go BPA. Latter rounds, you start to fill the positional needs. So early, it's just like we can never have enough good talent because they're probably in a position right now where they can, if the draft didn't even exist, they could be like, these are my 22 that start and I already have them on my team, right? I'm not going into the draft being like, I got to find 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 start. You know what I mean? Like those starters, like I feel like Seattle probably is already sitting like, I know where my 22 are. Now these best players available are going to be able to they're going to get the opportunity to outperform and earn their way into the starting lineup. And if they don't right away, okay. And if they do, great. Right. And that's how you win a draft.
All right.
All right. Lou, final piece. Give me your boldest of bold predictions. I almost want to go first because I feel like I hope we don't say the same thing. But your boldest of bold predictions.
You know, I'll let you go first because I really thought outside the box. But go ahead.
I'm going to be point blank, dead serious with this, and I've been saying this for a little while right now. Anthony Richardson, number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Point blank. Like I don't know how else to simplify that. I just feel like the Panthers, another team that is enamored by just superstar talent capability, right? And ceiling versus floor. I think that's what you look for when you pick number 1 overall. And man, does he have all the intangibles. And I know it's not the same staff and what have you, but like feels eerily similar that you're staring at Cam Newton 2.0 right now in this draft. And I would say an even more athletic version of Cam, not as big, but a more athletic version of Cam Newton. And I think you'll hear this smoke as we get closer, and I think it will just be smoke. But my bold prediction is Anthony Richardson, number 1 overall to Carolina Panthers.
I like that. I like that. So I'm going even bolder. I'm going bolder. Right? My bold prediction for this draft is Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills gets traded, and it gets traded to the New York Giants.
Whoa.
I don't know how it's going to happen, right?
I don't think it'll take as much as people think, right? Like, well, again, draft day brings hey, here's the 20th pick.
Hear me out. I don't know how it's going to happen from a financial standpoint, but, people will, they'll figure that all out. But my thing is Stephon Diggs has been a little more boisterous lately when it comes to, the Buffalo Bills falling short, right? He loves Brian Daboll. He's probably, Brian Daboll needs no, I know they got Waller, the tight end, but he still needs a difference maker, on the offensive side of the ball. I think it's a match made in heaven. And I also feel like the Buffalo Bills are in a fork in the road, and they're like, we can keep on doing what we're doing, or maybe go down the other way and build a deeper team, especially from an offensive standpoint. Maybe we can address if we trade almost like the AJ Brown thing, right? Yeah. And I know it's different because Stephon Diggs is under contract, but maybe if they have 2 first-round picks, they can address the offensive line and a wide receiver.
And wide
receiver. Do you see what I'm saying? Making it more, yep. or maybe they go Bijan and a wide receiver, or you know what I'm saying? Like maybe they make their offense more complete as opposed to so top-heavy. So my bold prediction: Stephon Diggs will still be wearing blue, but it will say NY on his helmet as opposed to a Buffalo on there.
I would say great move for the Giants, not so great move for Stephon Diggs. Like I just can't imagine your production being anywhere similar when it's Daniel Jones versus
you got Brian Daboll though out there, man.
Yeah, but Brian Daboll ain't throwing the football, dude.
Dude, who was that guy in the playoffs from the Giants that was like lighting it up, man?
Oh, dude, I couldn't even tell
if he's lighting it up, come on.
Dude, he was a Buffalo Bills practice squad player.
Yeah. And I feel like Buffalo does things like this smart, like they become a smart organization where this is where the quintessential you trade Diggs a year early than a year late, right? And you get the most value from him, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying Diggs to New York.
Okay, so let me ask you, since you're on the spirit of trading, does Trey Lance get traded in this draft on draft day?
And if he does anyone care? Wesson, no, he does not get traded, Trey Lance.
I mean, I
Um,
care, asshole.
but here's the thing. I'm
Isaiah
not trying.
Hodgins, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So Weston, how long ago we had a not disagreement, but it was a debate. I told you Trey Lance was not going to be it. And what I mean by that, it wasn't when he was drafted. It was like when he got injured again. I'm like, this is a lot to overcome. I know we're going over this and what have you, but how can he come back? How can he? I don't understand how he comes back from this.
I think there's a way back. There's definitely a path back, and the way that path became much more clear was his immediate and obvious replacement based on production on the field has question marks around him as well from an injury perspective, on an injury that you don't know a lot about in the NFL, right? Like, you don't know what the timetable is. You don't know what the arm strength is going to be. So I think he gets an opportunity. And I think what plays in Trey's favor, candidly, is it's not like you have this large sample size where you're like, the guy just hasn't figured it out. You don't have a large enough sample size, right? And the sample size that you do have, you're like, ooh, I see some things I really like, you know what I mean? And then you see the injury, right? And that I think buys him
You don't think he's fallen out of favor with the coaching staff?
I think in some capacity, but I think that capacity is just what you and I always talk about. Availability is the best ability.
Dude, why do you think he's going bald? He's fucking worried. He's like, he's not got a job in a couple
That's
years.
genetics, bro. I got no stress, bro, and I'm fucking balding. You know what I mean?
You got no stress.
Carefree life over here, dude.
Hey, keep on taking a sip.
Yeah. How do you get through your podcast? I drink heavily.
Half the times you don't even know we record until the next morning.
I'm like, Lou, just what button do I hit to stop this?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, and we'll talk more about it. So, All right. For the next few days, I will say everybody be on the lookout for more solo content from some individuals. But next week, we're going to be back. We're going to be talking about the draft. I think we might have a surprise in terms of location and maybe how we're set up and some things going. Again, all of this is barring that my wife does not go into early labor.
Hold it in, Jenny.
Yeah, dude, if it was up to her, bro, this baby would have came 3 months ago at this point with what she's going through. So hoping he holds out a little while longer. We'll see, because I'm looking forward to what we have coming up going into the draft. But Lou, that wraps us up. I always love when we do like our like off the wall, off the cuff type like draft coverage where it's not about the player, it's not about the number, it's more about like these concepts in the draft. I really enjoy them. So appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll be back in short order.